What's up, motherfuckers?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Class is in session again.
Yes, it is.
Imagine that.
God damn it.
Again.
You don't want to be here, Dennis?
No, I'm fucking tired,
I
dude.
thoroughly enjoy our bi-weekly time together.
So do I, but I am so tired.
Tired or fucking
I think
stoned?
I think he's stoned.
It might be a mixture.
It's a mixture.
Just a little bit of both.
Dude, I've been like running almost 6 hours of sleep in the past 3 days.
This is what the Satanic Panic has done to Dennis. All right, everybody, welcome to Satanic Study Hall. It is time we dive into the Satanic Panic in the 1990s. Today,
I was alive.
Yeah, that's right. I was alive too. Yeah, I actually was able to process some of these news stories and everything.
Me too. Not much, but
I was alive for half of it.
All right, yeah, and we are your hosts. My name is Bill Rohr. I'm a member of the Satanic Temple, and today I am joined by...
I'm Johnny Voorhees. I am also a member of TST.
Hi, I'm Dennis Cruz, and I'm a member of the Satanic Temple.
I am Veronica The Valedictorian. I am not an official member yet, but looking into it, highly interested.
Welcome, Veronica.
Yes, welcome.
It is good to have you in study hall with us today.
Good to be here. First time I'm back in school in a while.
Right.
Yes, we felt the same way.
I know,
Coming
you got
back
a good teacher today. We got Mr. Midgard leaning over us.
Sweet.
Yeah, we can get away with a lot of shit with him.
You know, fuck that guy. What exactly does a study hall teacher do? He's sitting over there playing, like, doing Sudoku. Like, he ain't teaching
Would
us
you expect
nothing.
that out of the PE teacher, though?
I thought he was doing like push-ups or something.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Surprised he's not fucking licking one of those dodgeballs. I ain't gonna lick my dodgeball.
He might break out. He might break out in jumping jacks. I don't know. I'm here to talk about Satan, so fuck that guy. I ain't doing no jumping jacks or push-ups. All right, for those of you who are
Do they
just...
still do the physical fitness test? Honestly, in school, do they still do that? Well, I guess not right now because of COVID, but
If they
before
did,
this
they
shit.
probably lowered the fucking standards. I mean, I failed the physical fitness test every year. Like,
I passed most of the
I was a
time.
chubby dude.
So was I.
Graduated in 2014. They were still doing it.
Okay.
Do you have to run a mile?
Yep.
Yeah, I got a bunch of the patches from that shit.
Yeah, I did great on the the fucking stretch tests. That was it. I was flexible as hell, but
The only
You
ones
can do
that
the
count.
starfish like a fucking master.
that's right.
Stretch Armstrong over here.
You know, I used to get picked on all the time too when I would do I don't know what the name of that thing was, but where
Is that with the box? Where you put your feet against the box and you have to stretch out in front of you?
That is so old.
Yeah,
when did you graduate?
That's what I'm talking about. When I would take that test, this fucking Dick Dillon shock. I don't even know if he's still alive, to be honest, but he'd be in the background going, "Oh, look, I bet you Bill goes home and sucks his own dick." Yeah, it was fucked, man. And then every time... No, I didn't. I mean, like any other man I've tried, it's not possible. It's not possible.
What do they say? You gotta remove one of the ribs, right?
I don't know.
Something like that?
I've heard plenty of people able to do it without...
I've heard that the
removing
music segment guy could do it this week.
Oh, really?
I've heard rumors that he could. I don't know.
You're right.
If he can, good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Saves himself a lot of money. So if there's any new ears that don't know who the fuck we are or why we're talking, we even have a podcast, we are Satanic Study Hall.
And we are sex addicts.
I know a few of those, or I knew a few of those people. We are a podcast featuring a rotating bench. Can I even use the word degenerates anymore? I gotta level up my game. Like, we're more than just fucking degenerates now.
Now he's got the teacher's
Yeah,
attention.
that's right. I'm surprised you didn't get kicked out. But yeah. So
What's up, Mr. Midgard? Oh, was that Belial?
that was Belial.
Where's he at?
I don't know. I just hear random.
Fucking
Baz.
walking around every summer.
And he's running amongst their feet. What the fuck? I didn't know where I was going to go. All right, USA. All right, so what is Satanic Study Hall? We are a podcast of rotating degenerates and members of the Satanic Temple who get together a couple times a month and talk about Satanism from its inception to modern day. We'll talk about news and entertainment and what else, Johnny? And music.
Pop culture.
Pop culture. each other, our personal journeys.
I thought you were going somewhere else with that.
No, we're not touching
We're
each
talking
other.
about each other, not touching, Dennis. Don't
About to
get
start singing Seal again.
excited. Please, no. But yeah,
Dennis
so,
touches himself sometimes, don't you?
we'll talk about social media later. But if anybody wants to get in touch with us, questions, comments, suggestions, point something out where we dropped the ball, or just to pat us on the back because we're awesome fucking responsible Satanists. So we're just trying to make the world a better place, Johnny.
Yes, we are.
No, but seriously, hit us up at satanicstudyhall@gmail.com with anything you got for us. We're very responsive, and you're going to learn about all types of other ways to get in touch with us. But one special way to get in touch with us and support the podcast is Patreon. If you have any interest in checking out how you can support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/Satanic Study Hall and learn a little more. We have 3 different tiers, so take a look at what we got, and we just appreciate your consideration. So now that's out of the way, I'm going to do what I normally do. Johnny, how was your week?
That's SDD, man. Same shit, different day. Get up, work, come home, go to sleep, repeat.
Do you have any roast beef sandwiches this week?
No.
You've given up on
All I
our
wanted was a fucking roast beef sandwich.
And a Pepsi.
Hey, shit.
And
the
just
bad.
one Pepsi.
No, Mom, just wanted a fucking Pepsi.
So I know we were going to say this for a Patreon, but what about anything grinding your gears this week?
No.
Oh, God.
Nope.
Nothing?
Nothing, sir.
Well, you're lucky.
It's all right. It's been all right. At least this week it has.
We're going to hope that
Or
trend
maybe you.
continues.
What about you?
What about me? I'm going to ping pong it right back to me. This week's been kind of busy. Back to school sucks.
Oh, well,
Kids,
yeah.
virtual learning,
Yep.
balancing all that. Everything's new. I have no idea what my role is in everything outside of making sure shit gets done and wake up.
Yeah, that.
Make sure you eat.
That's definitely.
Show me your homework. But that's pretty much it. So I'm figuring all that out. Still working 50 hours a week. And loving the podcast. It's
Like I
consuming,
said,
but
this
in a
is the
great way.
escape. Yep.
It is the escape. If I want to get away and after everything's all taken care of out in Super Dad world, I can come into study hall here and just grind.
Most definitely.
Super Dad. That's right. It is Super Dad world.
No, you want to know what's so fucking funny about that? My dad's license plate as I was growing up was Super Dad. SPERDAD.
Remember fucking Problem Child when they went camping and he got him the shirt and his hat said Super Dad and he got John Ritter the other hat and it just said fucking Dad.
I don't remember that shit.
Remember Problem Child?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Remember when they all went camping and they were getting ready to go and
It's
they
been
were
fucking years,
they were trying
man.
to corral Junior to get in the car or whatever and then he goes, "Come here, Ben, come here," and he goes, "I got something for you." But beyond the kid stuff and work, there really hasn't been much promoting the podcast, talking about it. The people that I've met online, like new followers on Twitter and people in the goat farm, and every day there's like 2 to 5, requests not every day, every week there's like 2 to 5. It's not a lot, but it's people are slowly starting to come in and flow and participate. So
It's a great thing.
watching that happen from afar, on top of all the other bullshit that's been floating around Satanic Study Hall. It's been kind of it's been just flattering and nice to see. And again, that's driven by people like Manaz and Alex and all of our some of our new patrons are on there. It's fucking awesome. Enough about me. What's up with you, Dennis?
My week, it's been hectic. I gave myself a break from everything. I went out. I left for the night, and our little friend Belial, I showed him his new home and took him out around the city and showed him some sights, and we had a good time. So we had a nice little break there. Anything else? No, I can't say.
What about you, Veronica? Welcome to the podcast. What's new with you?
It's been fun. I too work a lot, probably about 50 hours a week too, at this point, and it's been that way since COVID, this beautiful year we've had, and lockdowns went into full effect. But I took my first post-summer vacation day on Tuesday, and I went skydiving.
Nice.
Outstanding.
How was that? It's a dream of mine.
It was on my list for years. So along with that, this year I crossed off shooting an AR-15.
Nice. I've done that. I've done that.
Got the skydiving out of the way too. It was sensory overload. I don't know if it's just me not being able to breathe, but I couldn't breathe while in free fall at all.
See,
and I was like, I'm not going to splat, but I'm going to suffocate.
Right.
But it was really, really fun. Other than that, once you can, get air into your mouth.
I've actually always tested that theory by hanging my head out the window of a fast moving car for as long as I can.
Just to see if you could skydive.
I can never fucking breathe during it. I don't know how to breathe. I keep having to turn my head sideways and catch a breath and look back and
Was the car going 125 miles an hour?
Oh fuck no! We're talking 75 at tops.
That's approximately on average how fast your body is going to fall through the area. 125.
Wow.
I would have skydived already, but I think I'm like 30 pounds. Yeah, I'm 30 pounds overweight. I'm like 280, 283 or something like that. You have to be 250 or 249 to jump out of a plane.
All right, come on. We're going to put you on the Rocky diet.
I'm good, man. I'm comfortable. Maybe just, 20, 30 pounds to get healthy down the road, but I'm in a race. So besides skydiving, anything else going on that kind of maybe not as thrilling, but puts a smile on your face? After
that, every day's a pretty normal day. Job's been pretty stabilizing really well. So the skydiving, I think after that, I'm going to take it easy for the rest of the week because that was pretty cool.
It's hard to top, but it really is. It's like, oh, what have you done this week? I just went skydiving.
I just jumped out of a plane.
I just plummeted to the earth from the stratosphere. Is that considered, or is that you're a little below the stratosphere?
I don't even know. I know at 15,000 you need oxygen.
Okay.
And they typically throw you out, or you jump out at 13,500, I think.
Damn, I've almost been that high on land. I've snowboarded from the peak of a place that was 10,150 feet.
Really?
Yeah, out in Utah. It was at the canyons in Park City, Utah. There was a ski lift that went up to I think the ski lift was called the 9990. It was 9,990 feet, and then we ducked the rope and hiked up to the peak. So it was a fucking blast to go down, but it was scary as shit.
Hell yeah! I've never been. I have weak knees. I had to give up skiing, snowboarding, and ice skating a long time ago. All right, now I think it's time to recap what we talked about last time in Satanic Study Hall. We opened up our 3-part Satanic Panic series with a brief introduction to the Satanic Panic and what happened in the 1980s that initially sparked it and made this crazy panic get out of control and progress as far as it has. And as we mentioned before, the Satanic Panic is not over. The Satanic Panic is alive and well in various different forms. And that is going to lead into what we're going to talk about in episode 3. But first, in episode 2, which is today, we are diving into a couple things that happened in the 1990s. We have a couple of cases we'll briefly touch on just to kind of establish a trend of the bullshit that's been happening, as well as spend a good chunk of time on the West Memphis Three. Last time we talked about things like Michelle Remembers, the association of Satanism with tabletop games, specifically Dungeons and Dragons. But yeah, we talked about the McMartin trials and the effect that had on really igniting a crazy fire in the media and psychology industry and FBI, where millions of dollars were spent actively seeking pre-existing cases correlation with Satanism just to see if anything would stick. And that continued throughout the 1990s. Things like the Keller case and the McMartin trials in Canada we're going to be talking about today. Everything compounded and built on top of each other. Throughout the 1980s was the true panic, but in the 1990s, at the end of what we talked about, when the exonerations happened with the McMartin trial, I think, Dennis, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at that point, people started smelling bullshit. The 80s were just scratching the surface on what you could do with entertainment, television, media. I mean, Hollywood was way ahead of the game, but television was changing. The amount of networks available for the public to watch were fucking exponentially multiplying.
Oh, yeah.
It's went from the 4 major news networks in the early 80s, and 8, 10, 12. Now there's a fucking 375 channels on a satellite network.
Yep.
But yeah, the media coverage ramped up between the news networks, and I'm a firm believer that the government is very influential in what comes out in Hollywood and topical stuff.
So they're always pushing us in a certain direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And so they use that again as an outlet. I mean, as we were doing research for the podcast, there's tons of shit that happened in the 90s, and you've got Hocus Pocus, that movie in 1993.
God, I fucking love that movie, and it is a Halloween must every fucking year.
Yes, it is.
My kittens' names are Hocus and Pocus.
No shit! Oh, that's awesome.
I knew we brought you on here for a reason.
Right? Hell yeah.
Perfect fit.
Fuck yeah.
Then you got Blair Witch, like we talked about in '99.
Loved it.
The movie The Witches. That was early '90s. That was 1990.
Yeah, that was on the exact.
Who can forget about The Craft?
Yeah.
I can't forget about The Craft.
Dude, what's her name in there? The girlfriend of
Ed Norton in American History
Yes,
X.
thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, her, yes. And she was also in fucking Waterboy, right?
Yes, she was. Yes,
She was his girlfriend, which is really
She was actually in a bunch of movies back then.
yeah, she always played that weird
Queer
like,
chick. Yep.
She's got a good actress face.
Yeah,
She
she
does.
does.
Got a
She
good
does.
actress presence.
So you got the craft, man. Yeah. I'm not going to incriminate myself with that.
Yeah, please do indulge.
We've got Practical Magic in 1998, Crucible,
That
1996.
fucking movie. Oh my god, they made us watch that like 3 times in my fucking history.
Oh yeah, that was the
in 10th
typical
grade.
AV cart thing.
based
in
off a
school.
book.
Well, did you?
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
it
it
was
is. I read the book.
Arthur Miller. One of my favorite plays. Definitely like favorite high school reading material. And then
Right.
I really liked the version of the movie that came out with Daniel Day-Lewis and Winona Ryder.
Yeah, it was alright. I don't know. It's just they drilled it into our heads in my
100%.
class. It was I couldn't take it.
Oh, it's going to be
anymore,
it's eternally on syllabuses. You know what I mean? Like,
couldn't take
it's
it
never
anymore.
going away.
But I think because of stuff that ended up popping up in the 1990s, 1980s, and even
Right.
now, stuff like The Crucible is important, and people. It's
Oh,
weird
yes.
that more people don't make the connection between Salem and what went on with the subject matter we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, it's a huge correlation. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, 1997,
fucking
started
show,
as a big
Jesus
feature
Christ.
film and
Yep.
then turned into that long series. The
I have
seven
no
or
idea.
8 seasons of Buffy. Angel had 4 or 5, maybe even more than that. Then you got Warlock 2 from the Warlock series that was made in the
Yes.
90s. You got Warlock and Warlock 2, that came out in 93. And then, I mean, obviously, we have the new Sabrina that's out on Netflix
No, that
now.
was
but
new. We also
I
have the
know, but
original.
I'm saying we have the new, which is what I'm about to mention in case people aren't old school Nick fans like we may be. There's the original Sabrina the
Fuck
Teenage
yes,
Witch.
Clarissa explains it all, baby.
Melissa Joan Hart, I fucking hate you. I really do.
That's why I was so excited to get to that.
Yeah, I figured I'd flatter. It was relevant. Sabrina the Teenage Witch. All right, yep, boom, we're done. Devil's Advocate, 1997. We have The Ninth Gate.
Fucking amazing.
That's an amazing movie.
The Ninth Gate.
I love the representation of the devil in this movie. The fucking the girl that's running through the movie he ends up having sex with in front of the burning building at the
Yep.
end.
Johnny Depp's great. in that
Awesome
movie.
scene.
And what about The Crow?
I don't know. Would you consider The Crow Satanic Panic?
Not Satanic Panic, but the imagery and the use of Satan, and wasn't it Satan that brought him back to life?
I guess
I thought it was a crow.
Well, but it's,
I've never seen the movie.
You can use that as the same.
Could that be Satan?
Well, that could be used the same way as the Omen uses the dogs.
True.
The dogs are a representation of Satan.
Okay, yeah, I can
So-
see that. Then we moving on from there, we just a couple of video games that really came out and drilled hell in the point of Satan and Demon's Home, where you can't forget about Doom.
Love Doom.
Never.
Still play it.
Yeah, interesting. Something just came out the other day. So there's this guy. It's a YouTube series. He has a EPT pregnancy test, and what he does is he runs various operating systems on this thing. He has this little sub-series called Will It Run Doom? And so anything with an LED screen and memory chip or whatever, or a circuit, he tries to see if it will run Doom, playable either with a controller.
Nice.
So this guy wired an EPT pregnancy test it wasn't playable with a controller, but it played the opening video and it had the start screen. So if there was a controller, you could play Doom on a pregnancy test. It was
That's
fucking amazing.
awesome.
But yeah, that game in general, I mean, there's just, the franchise is on fire. I mean, the movie's been done twice. Originally, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was in it.
It's horrible.
It was fucking horrible. I haven't seen the movie. He needs to stop. He's the richest man in Hollywood. Just bank your money and just stop fucking ruining franchises for me, please.
Yeah, like Jumanji, you motherfucker.
Yeah.
It was a bad one.
Oh, God. No Robin Williams movie should ever have to be made.
No.
And speaking of which, I'm so glad they did not redo Mrs. Doubtfire. You know, they were going to do that with Jonah
Are
Hill.
you fucking serious?
Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill was supposed to remake.
I would have.
I could have gone the rest of my life, even if it doesn't get made, I could have gone the rest of my life
would've
without knowing they had that idea.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard, it pissed me off when it was scrapped. And Doom was really fun to play.
It was.
I'm not gonna lie, I may have used a cheat code or two.
Yeah, I think everybody's done that. Everybody's used the Game Genie.
See, I didn't play a lot of it.
Wow.
I didn't play a lot of Doom. My cousin had it, so I played it a couple times on his computer, but I never had the game myself.
I think it was just more or less health and ammo. That's all you could really do as far as that. You can't spawn power.
There was computer, and then I think did Sega Genesis release it?
Super Nintendo
Super
did first,
Nintendo.
I think. Then Sega. I think that was the evolution. It all started on computer.
See, I was a Diablo player.
Nope, Diablo's on my list. Let's jump to Diablo then.
All right.
Diablo, now correct me if I'm wrong, was a very interesting game because I think I'm thinking about the right game. Was that one of those LAN party games where it was like local, you could play locally with a group of your
I
friends?
think so.
I could be wrong, and if it's not, I stand
think so.
corrected.
I never
and
did personally. If you could, but
I'm sure
I think
people
you
will
could.
correct me, but there were in the 90s too. There were these, LAN parties that they would have, and everyone would take their computer over to somebody's house, and they'd all hook their computers up.
I used to do that with my Xbox 360.
Yeah.
Yo, you see me going up fucking Westchester Pike on the 104 with my TV and my 360, fucking getting off the fucking bus stop.
And people did this. They lugged their desktop computers, and they were fucking big, and their monitors, and all their
Really?
cables and everything, until their mom would drop them off at Steve's house.
Holy
and
shit.
They'd go downstairs to the banquet table in the basement. And
It's all about Satan. Let's go.
And the funny thing is, too, and they'd always, a lot of the times
Hail
I'd read
Satan.
in these articles, they'd short out the fucking circuit breakers because they'd plug like 8 computers into the one circuit.
Yeah. Burn the house.
Yeah, fry out people's motherboards and stuff. But no, Diablo was crazy. I mean, in itself, Diablo, devil.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally haven't played it, but
I never have
my-
either.
Fucking number 2. Oh, so good.
Now, isn't Diablo, is that trying to get out of hell? Is it set in hell?
No, you descend into hell.
Okay.
You fight your way down and through until you end up fighting Diablo or all that. But
Did they re-release those games for like PlayStation and shit?
they made number 3 available for console.
So strictly computer.
No. They made number 3. 1 and 2 are computer only.
Okay.
And then they made number 3 computer, PlayStation.
Okay, yeah, I knew it was
Xbox.
only computer in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that spawned, games like Diablo. You sent everybody to Staples and their local
Yeah, right.
electronics shops to upgrade their video cards and everything.
Right.
There's also Wolfenstein. Remember kicking some ass in
Never
Wolfenstein,
played that
the
either.
satanic Nazi references. That was a fun fucking game.
See, I didn't
Talking
play
about
it.
cheat codes. I used to get the walkthroughs from this bulletin board. So I was a fucking nerd back in the 90s. But that was before
You
the
had to
internet.
search for your codes. You
No,
didn't have
that
the
was
internet
before
then.
the internet was the internet, and maybe this will resonate with some of our listeners. But there's these things called bulletin board systems. Before there was web browsers or anything, you called in with your modem to somebody else's computer.
Okay.
It was multi-node. They could host up 4 to 5 to 6 different people at the same time.
Okay.
So there's message boards and online games. And then if they had an external hard drive, they would post whereas, and you'd
Holy
get
shit.
Yeah, that was the internet before the internet. It was fucking crazy.
That's pretty fucking cool.
And that's how I got my copies of Doom and Wolfenstein.
Nice.
Completely
Nice, yeah.
hacked illegally, and it was always a threat. Anytime you downloaded anything with .exe, it could have been a fucking
Yeah.
virus, and you would have been done.
Yeah.
Windows 95, and God, when it first came out, it was Windows 3.1. It was at the end of 3.1, beginning of 95.
Really?
When all these games came out and everything, yeah, it could do some damage.
Nice.
God, virus Russian roulette. I remember.
Yeah.
We got those downloading songs on Napster.
Fucking Napster.
Rest in peace,
Are you
Napster.
downloading a
LimeWire?
song?
LimeWire.
Kazaa?
Yeah, Kazaa was worse than LimeWire. Kazaa was the fucking worst.
Kazaa was the purple monkey or the purple gorilla, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I was good with computers and managing viruses, but you could not battle what came out of Kazaa.
No fucking way.
That was like the laboratory in
Let me
China,
tell you.
and
Let
what
me
holds
tell
the
you,
fucking
the
viruses. It's like, oh my Lanza.
Let me tell you.
Fuck Kazaa. Speaking of Doom, Wolfenstein, and Diablo, games that came out in the 90s, now we spent some time in the last episode talking about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep.
Tabletop game, not necessarily card-based, but there was something that came out in the mid-90s. It was 1996, Pocket Monsters, a.k.a. Pokemon.
I thought we were talking about something else.
Of course you would. Of course you would. So Pokemon came out, and there was a pretty big panic coming from the church and religious right and just people in general that didn't really understand it. So obviously Pokemon, Pocket Monsters. It came out. Was it a show first and then a card game, or a card game or a show? I cannot speak to that.
I don't know. I do not know.
Can we use, as I'm talking about it, can somebody Google that? What came first? It's like the chicken or the egg?
Oh, I'll look it up right now. I'm almost positive it came out as the trading card game, and it branched into the animated series. Played it, collected it.
Yeah, Pokemon came out, and, I just said it. They were pocket monsters. They were small monsters that, that you could train. And these monsters, after you train them, and, well, I know now from playing Pokemon Go, I guess give them candies, they will evolve.
Boy.
You give them candy, yeah. And then the Pokemon evolve into another level and another level, and each level has different names. You gotta fight them to actually get them to evolve.
You gotta get them to, like you more, and you gotta build a relationship.
Yeah.
Groom your Pokemon. You gotta groom the Pokemon.
Yeah. It was like, what was that?
With some candy, little Pokemon.
What was that little keychain thing?
Tamagotchi.
Yeah.
Those fucking things. I could never keep them alive.
It's like the babies that I used to give out in school in home ec. Like, I know how many of my friends' baby just died. They became non-responsive. Failed the project. Yeah, they didn't do anything. It's like, fuck that baby. It's like, I'm gonna go downtown and smoke weed.
I'm having an abortion.
Mom, you take care of this thing.
We're both fucking wrong. It actually started as the Pokemon Red and Green Game Boy games.
Okay, so it started as Game Boy games,
and then
licensed to Nintendo.
Yes, and then it went to it went to the animated series, and then I guess from there it went to the trading card game, and
so the trading card game is when it really started to take off. I mean, anybody that's been playing Pokemon forever, I mean,
no.
And then it recently came about, and just to touch on it, Pokemon Go, the panic came all around because now it gained all this attention. My grandchildren are running around catching monsters and demons, and like they always use Ghastly. Ghastly is always the go-to Pokemon they use on like PowerPoint presentations, or because it looks like a demon or a ghost or whatever. And then they use like Charizard because he's breathing fire, and it's fire-breathing fucking hellacious dragon.
Well, they use Hijinks. It's the purple one. That's the cross-dresser.
Yeah. All right, so shifting gears and moving forward, we're going to jump into the Martinsville case. So as we mentioned before, there were a vast amount of cases that continued to pop up all around the world, North America. We're going to jump to Canada with this one. And Johnny did some research, and he's going to bring to light some of the issues and facts that came out of this case, as well as the outcome and what people are up to now.
The Martinsville, Saskatchewan case. A quick review of the case was also known as the Martinsville Nightmare. It happened
I like that.
It happened in 1990. I know it sounds like a horror movie. It happened in 1992, like Bill said, in Martinsville, Saskatchewan, Canada. There was also two similar events where there were claims of child sexual abuse that got blown up into claims of satanic ritual abuse. The better known of the two is the Martinsville daycare scandal, the second being an earlier accusation of abuse in Saskatoon, known as the foster parent scandal. What happened was, in the Martinsville, Saskatchewan case, a mother accused a local woman who ran a babysitting service and daycare center in her home of sexual abuse of her child. After the accusation, the police took a look into it, and the allegations of sexual abuse began to snowball. There's that word again, snowball.
Oh, who doesn't love a good snowball?
Where did that come from? Was that Patreon or my fucked up brother as well?
Yeah,
okay,
that was
one
the
was
43.
Patreon.
We were talking about the 43 things.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Snowballing.
Snowballing.
Who doesn't love a good snowball?
Jeez. Where was I?
I don't know.
You sometimes. All right, there were more than a dozen people, including 5 police officers from 3 different forces, that were accused of this sexual abuse. They faced over 100 charges. Let me repeat that, 100 charges. They were connected with running a satanic cult. The cult was referred to as the Brotherhood of the Ram. The cult was said to have practiced ritual sexual abuse of a number of kids at a place called Devil Church.
I wonder who named him.
I like
The
that.
brother, like, how did he get an official name?
Right?
Like,
Devil Church.
The Brotherhood of the Ram.
Yeah. That's what they said the cult was referred to as the Brotherhood of the Ram.
Interesting.
The son of
How
the...
do I join? How do I join?
I don't know. You'd have to talk to somebody in Martinsville, Saskatchewan. Or
Go to one of those really old dive bars.
it does. That's got a nice ring to it. You really would. You want to go down to the Ram?
You would, you would have to. That's the same way you go to. That's what the town historians go.
Yeah. I'm not going to the Ram tonight. I'm going to Devil Church tonight.
All right.
I think Siberia played there once.
Brotherhood of
No,
the
the
Ram.
Devil Church. The son of the daycare owner, he was tried and was found guilty of molestation, but not by sexual ritual, which was what allegedly happened. A Royal Canadian Mounted Police Task Force took over the investigation, and they came to the decision that the allegations of satanic ritual abuse was blown up by emotional hysteria. Go figure that. What a surprise. As far as the interviews go with the children, they were found to be mismanaged. The questions the children were asked were found to be leading, and the children were giving rewards for giving the right answers, in quotation marks, the right answers, which would lead to a conviction. In 2013, the defendants sued for wrongful prosecution. Ron and Linda Sterling won their lawsuit and received $924,000 in
That's not
2004.
enough.
Fucking
It's not enough.
No, it's not.
no.
John Popovich, he was one of the 5 police officers that was falsely accused of satanic ritual abuse, and he received a settlement of $1.3 million. Doesn't seem near
Balanced.
enough.
Yeah. Like, they should never have to pay taxes again.
No.
They should, for
Yeah.
utilities.
Yes.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I agree. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the Martinsville case.
So the Martinsville case, again, that was
Okay.
like 100 charges with dozens
Yes.
of people being brought, like all of these lives intersecting and ruined. Because you gotta,
crazy.
one thing people, like you hear these cases and people say, oh, they were exonerated. All right, good. That's cool. But no, it's
It's not cool.
But think about the
The
years that
accusation-
fucking...
92 to 14.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that, like, that fucking...
1992 to 2000.
I'm sorry, 2004. I'm sorry. not
2004.
Ah, Jesus,
Sorry.
okay.
But still, holy
That's
shit.
still a long ass time.
I mean,
It's
like,
still over a decade
Yeah.
where you know, it follows
12
you
fucking
around.
years.
You won't be able to get a job.
Yeah.
If you
12
wanted to go
fucking years.
seek other employment or do anything, your family at that point has probably ostracized you.
right.
yeah, I mean, the effects of just the accusation, and you're done. You're
Yeah.
done. I mean, especially in today's world where, you know what I mean? Like, you can't escape social media. Like, you get put on blast. Like, you might as well go live in the woods.
Yeah.
But
You're
back,
gonna get a
back
hashtag
then,
cancel on Twitter.
the hashtag can't. Oh, yeah, that's what they say. I'm not a tweeter,
It's
so
everything, yeah.
we're in cancel
what's,
culture.
What's the other
now.
one?
Damien Eccles out here being, I was canceled in 1994. You can't hurt me.
I fucking love that guy. But yeah, this is the same thing. It's rinse, lather, repeat with these stories.
Yeah.
So there's not much anybody can do to repay the damage on that.
No.
Speaking of which, I do want to make a quick segue before I forget to talk about it. If you go to the Grave Action website or you follow Grave Action in the Satanic Temple on Twitter, Grave Action is in the Satanic Temple are currently collecting stories from survivors of the Satanic Panic. They're looking for audio clips or video clips for a project that they're working on. If you or anybody in your reach, family, friends, network, or colleagues know anybody that was involved in the Satanic Panic or has a story to tell, I highly encourage you to go to thesatanictemple.com and look for how you can get your voice heard and become a part of this project. One of the on the link that I just recently shared in our goat farm, front and center. But there's again, the Grave Action is always trying to get the word out and make sure people understand what has happened in the past and what is continuing to happen in efforts to stop it. Moving on from that is, I believe we have one more case that we were going to talk about. And which one was that, Johnny?
The Wenatchee.
Winnipeg.
Oh, Wenatchee? Is that how you say it? Wenatchee.
Wenatchee.
Wanna pee?
Do you want to pee? We already took a break.
I don't.
Giving you a heads up.
I
you want to?
think someone has the hall pass already, so you're just going to have to tough it out.
All right, fine.
This particular case, I mean, it doesn't really fit into the satanic ritual abuse.
Right.
No, but it did happen at the end of all the hype of the child abuse in the 1980s. It happened in Wenatchee, Washington.
In the 1980s, or
It happened at the end. It happened in 1994 to 1995.
all right, so in the 90s.
Yeah, but it was at the end of the hype of the child abuse.
Okay.
No, he said the hype. Yeah, the end of the hype of the 80s.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was confused.
That's a sad case. I mean, there were many poor and intellectually disabled suspects that pleaded guilty to charges. Those who had the means to hire a lawyer got their charges dropped and were acquitted of all charges. Oh, fuck.
Hang on, Johnny. Here we go.
I kind of like this guy.
Attention staff and students. This
Better
is
than
the
the other
principal
one.
with your daily update.
Fucking
The Satanic Study Hall podcast is not affiliated with any other podcast or organization. None. Zero. The views and opinions expressed on the podcast are ours and ours alone. Johnny Voorhees, after a random locker search, we found your vibrating wand. Your parents can pick it up from the main
shit.
office after school. Lunch Lady Lilith went home sick, so lunch today has
fucking knew
been
it.
canceled. DoorDash or starve, I don't fucking care.
Wait, no lunch?
And that's
No
all for
lunch
today's
today?
announcements.
I'm going home.
Hail
I'm going to
Satan.
McDonald's. All right. I forget where I was before he interrupted me.
Well, at least it says Hail Satan. I'd prefer an Ave
Ave
Satanas.
Satanas, yes.
But
Hail
that's
Satan.
personal preference. Hail Satan just doesn't roll off the
No,
tongue
it
like
doesn't.
an Ave Satanas. There's nothing wrong with it, but
This particular case is pretty sad because many poor and intellectually disabled suspects pleaded guilty to the charges, while those who had the means to hire a lawyer got their charges dropped and were acquitted of the charges. Eventually, all cases were dismissed and all accused were released. The authorities paid damages to some who were originally accused. The accusations began in 1995. Detective Robert Perez was told by his 13-year-old foster daughter named Donna Perez that she had been sexually molested. Perez then proceeded on March 13th of 1995 to take Donna and two social workers in his police car to certain houses in Wenatchee that his daughter pointed out to be where the sexual abuse was occurring. She listed 22 locations. She stated that she and numerous other children were being abused regularly since January of 1988. The drive became known locally as the Parade of Homes, or the drive-by. Many people convicted were poor, like I said before. They were mentally challenged, and they were on government assistance. Lawyers for these people said their guilty pleas were coerced. Eventually, as far as the arrests go, there were 43 adults arrested.
Damn.
There was 29,726 charges of sexual abuse.
Oh my God.
Oh my.
And it was said to have involved 60 children in 1995.
I mean, the government resources and the money and time alone.
Yes.
When we had fucking
Seriously.
serial killers in the 80s and the 90s, everybody was too busy looking for Satan.
Yes.
Fuck.
And also
Yep.
taking away from other child molestation cases that were credible.
They were
Right.
absolutely credible.
Let's
and-
think about it. What serial killers were going on at this time? Eileen Wuornos.
Yeah. Richard Ramirez. The people that were arrested, they were parents and they were actually Sunday school teachers. Many were convicted of sexual abuse of children, and they were accused of sexually abusing their own children or their foster children. Several claimed their confessions were coerced. No confessions were taped. No notes were ever taken. And the person that was doing the interviewing of the sexual abuse was none other than Robert Perez.
Wow.
I recognize that name.
Yeah.
Nothing was taped. No notes were taken. Man, that is sounding something real familiar.
16 adults entered Alfred pleas. Now you're going to hear a little bit more about Alfred pleas when we get into the West Memphis Three. But for those of you who don't know what an Alfred plea is, it's a guilty plea that the defendants admit that the evidence provided by the prosecution would be able to convict them beyond a reasonable doubt in a case. 3 defendants were arrested shortly after sharing their criticism of the cases. Caseworker named Paul Gleason criticized the way that Perez interviewed the kids and he was arrested for tampering with a witness. We're going to skip to 1999. The Washington State Legislature passed the Perez Bill, which requires child abuse investigators to keep accurate records of their interviews and does not allow investigations to be investigated if it involves their own children. As far as the trials go, prosecutors, they were unable to provide any physical evidence to support the charges against the people that they were trying to convict.
Big surprise. I really, like, why couldn't somebody have even fabricated some type of evidence just for entertainment purposes?
I agree.
Like, there was nothing.
Yep. The main...
like-
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. It just blows my mind that over and over and over again, it's finding out what shit sticks to the wall.
Yeah.
Yep.
What story that we tell juries works, so we don't need evidence at all. I hate that. It makes my blood boil.
So that like journalists following that can make as much money as they want. Media personalities can make as much money. I mean, it's really...
Is Michael Jordan a Satanist?
Fuck you both, all right?
It was fitting, Dennis. Like I've listened to that segment probably 30 times.
That was funny.
Even taking editing out of it 30 times on my own. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
It still makes me geek out.
Good.
The main witnesses of the case in the trial were, of course, Robert and Donna Perez. And Perez, as I said before, he was also the investigator of the cases. The jury acquitted them of all remaining charges, so nobody was ever found guilty. One juror commented that acquitting them was not a difficult decision for us, and that's a quote from
was
one
after
of
the
from
Alpha
one of the
Breeze,
jurors.
right?
Yeah. Some met with the people that were tried after the trial. They said that they were very angry and upset about what happened to them, and they were pissed off that this case was even brought to trial. A lot of the jurors criticized this case as a witch hunt and a waste of money because of the lack of evidence. The case later led to a book by Pierce County Public Defender Catherine Lyon titled Witch Hunt, A True Story of Social Hysteria and Abused Justice. And that's all I got for that.
Yeah, it's definitely not necessarily the SRA piece of things, but it's the same old song and dance. Getting creative in the 90s, though, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And their application of this blanket and umbrella of Satanic Panic and SRA and all of that shit. We are going to take a quick bathroom break. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I gotta go.
Yeah, I had way too...
I think Baphomet.
Yeah,
I think
I wanna pee.
The needle went on my leg.
Yeah, because we just heard the I want to pee case.
I want to pee.
I want to pee case.
Yeah, I think Belial wants to piss too.
We'll be right back.
Guess what? The fun is over. Now we're gonna get to the downright evil stuff.
Oh no!
We're gonna take a look at some of these satanic songs.
Hail Satan.
And Bill, what do we say?
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan.
Hail
Hail Satan,
Indeed,
indeed.
yes. All right, so going with this whole Satanic Panic situation, I figured it might be fun to do an album that caused a little bit of controversy back in 1996. Now, we dropped a hint earlier about who we were talking about. You may have been able to figure it out from that hint. But if you don't know who it is, we're talking about Mr. Brian Warner, a.k.a. Marilyn Manson.
I'm so fucking hyped.
Oh, so my all-time favorite artist.
Yes, we're talking about, of course, Antichrist Superstar.
I saw him Easter Sunday in '98 at the Spectrum.
Easter Sunday.
At the fucking Spectrum.
That's fitting.
What
was in
a wonderful
fifth
time
grade.
to have a concert.
Yes,
I was in
leave it
fifth
to Marilyn
grade. Yeah, it was
Manson.
great.
All right, so Antichrist Superstar. This is the second album from him. It was released on October 8th of 1996 by Nothing Interscope Records. It debuted at number 3 on Billboard Top 200.
It's pretty fucking impressive.
Yes, it is.
So it was up against a lot of garbage.
I'm sure it was. They started recording it in February, and they finished the recording in August. It was recorded at Nothing Studios in New Orleans, Louisiana. It was produced by Manson, along with Sean Beavan. He was a former Skinny Puppy producer, Dave Ogenine, and some guy named Trent Renzer.
Some guy.
Yeah, who knows?
Are you serious? Some
guy.
guy? Oh, wait, the fuck. Can we back up? What do you mean, some guy?
Nah, he's a bitch.
Whoa. No.
I hurt myself
Fuck out of here.
today. Did you really?
Closer.
Apparently not enough.
Hold on, wait a minute. Closer, the hand that feeds, head in a hole, head like a hole. Like, are you serious? You're talking shit on 9 Inch
Fuck
Nails right
Trent
now.
Renzer. Fuck Pearl Jam too.
Fuck Pearl Jam.
Pearl
I'll give
Jam.
you that, but we're talking fucking 9 Inch
No, I
Nails
love
right
9
now.
Inch Nails.
Holy
I'm just-
Listen,
shit.
9 Inch Nails as a whole is okay to me. I agree. Fuck
That was a-
Trent
that was a
Reznor.
joke.
Yeah,
I actually
overall,
love 9 Inch
Trent
Nails.
Reznor kind of is a douche, but
He is
what
a
he's
douchebag.
done and his contributions, like to the industry and stuff, look what he's doing with the Watchmen, like
Yeah.
the soundtrack and
I
everything
guess-
on that's fucking incredible.
I guess
Right.
I guess it's like my hatred for Tool. Like I cannot fucking stand Maynard, but everyone fucking loves him for some reason.
I've never been a Tool fan. I'm actually have a mushroom
Can't
trip that
fucking
traumatized me
stand
to
him.
Tool.
Oh,
That's a whole
I
other
hate that
story.
fucking band.
Back to Manson.
All right, I was just joking about that whole 9 Inch Nails thing. I'm actually a big fan of them. Or of him, I guess you could say. As far as Antichrist Superstar goes, it has sold almost 2 million copies in the United States alone, and over 7 million worldwide, and this is as of 2011.
I bought a copy of it.
Me too.
I want to
I
wait
have
to
as well.
fucking FYE or Sam Goody.
Yeah, I actually have the sticker still on the back
Yep,
of
me
it.
too. I think I paid maybe $11.99.
Dude,
I
I have
did
a stack,
$13.99.
a stack of jewel cases with the wall stickers on them.
My friend worked there, so he used to give me just rolls of those stickers. So if one of my CDs or cassettes broke, you just stick it on there and go back there.
Yep.
A little bit of controversy about the album was the recording of the album was accompanied by excessive drug use, and it produced a high level of antagonism between the band members. This led to the album being the last to feature the founding guitar player, Daisy Berkowitz, who quit partway through the recording, leaving Twiggy Ramirez to play the remaining guitar parts. And the other, I guess I can go into that. The personnel for the band was, of course, Marilyn Manson, who is, the vocalist. He also played guitars, acoustic guitar, the bass, and the pan flute. And he was a producer. Daisy Berkowitz, the guitar player.
Real quick fun fact
Partway
about this. This was the theme song to 4 of my episodes of that cable access show I told you I had.
Really?
Oh, it was fucking fantastic.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude.
It's a strong ass intro song.
Love it.
Twiggy Ramirez, he played the guitar parts for
Twiggy.
Daisy after he left, or quit. He also played
quitter.
bass.
Who didn't love Twiggy? His fucking
Yeah,
dress.
he was good.
I don't like Twiggy anymore. I just learned that he quit. Fuck you, Twiggy.
Madonna Wayne Gacy, the keyboard player.
Yep.
And Ginger Fish, the drummer.
That's a fantastic name.
It is.
Gingerfish.
Yes.
I guess it's Ginger Rogers and Albert Fish
Yep.
combined for those names.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
And Twiggy is obviously Manson and
yeah.
Richard Ramirez. And Madonna Wayne Gacy,
Oh,
self-explanatory.
yes.
And Daisy Berkowitz is too.
It's poetic.
Yes. It's actually a great idea.
It really
Yeah,
is.
it was beautiful. Brilliant.
The storyline of this particular album revolved around a being, like a supernatural being, who seizes all power from humanity in order to initiate the end of the world, or an apocalyptic end to mankind. I guess you could call it like a demigod rock star.
Right.
That's what I would call it. He's driven by hate and despair. He uses his new position to destroy the world. Why not? It was actually the concept of this album. It was actually a tribute to Friedrich Nietzsche. Specifically his philosophy concept of putting yourself through a transformation to become something superhuman. Now, of course, with this album came the controversial tour, which was the Dead to the World tour.
It's all over the news.
Yes.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
heavily
The
criticized
video clips.
by the Christian right. Most venues that he played at were picketed by religious organizations.
Thank you, Kurt Loder and Tabitha Soren for yes, my two favorite MTV, well, two of my favorite, but they told me all about all the protests and taught me a lot about Manson in the 90s.
Yeah, they were picketed, as I said. Most of the venues that he played at on this tour were picketed because of more accusations and rumors of onstage drug use, sex with animals, and satanic rituals, which included human and animal sacrifices.
I was about to say, do you remember the rumor passed around that he wouldn't start the show until the puppy was sacrificed and thrown back up on stage?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was huge in school.
I also heard a rumor that he was Paul from the Wonder Years.
Yes, I remember that one. Yes.
Shit, I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I actually thought it was
Billy
true.
Corgan was the kid from Small Wonder.
I was convinced that he was Paul from the Wonder Years until I snapped out of it. And
Now, along
got
with
better
the
sources.
along with the criticizing of the Christian right and the religious organizations, there were also some acolytes that came along with Antichrist Superstar. Mostly, it was praised by critics for its production.
As it should be. It's
Yeah, it was
fucking
great.
beautiful.
Kerrang! They actually listed it 3 times. It was listed as third best album of 1996. It was placed at number 14 on their 100 albums you must hear before you die. And it was number 88 on 100 greatest rock albums, and that's from Kerrang!
Nice.
It made Q's list of the 50 heaviest albums of all time in 2001.
Speaking of lists, this song is like my top 10 of songs to fuck to.
Tourniquet?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good choice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I gotta try
Yeah,
that.
you do.
Have you ever fucked a German polka?
German polka.
Yes,
No,
I'm
I
talking
haven't.
about. I'm telling you, give it a fucking shot.
I fucked a Rammstein, but
Like, that's a given. But no, try German polka.
German polka.
Yes.
It has the same effect as ballerina music. I don't know. Is it gonna set
Never
the
fucked a
mood?
ballerina. I don't even, what the fuck is ballerina music?
I don't know. I just
What, like
picture the music box
yeah,
shit
music
with
box
the
shit.
ballerinas spinning around.
Dance the Sugar Plum Fairies.
Yeah. There we go. Thank you. Someone that knows what they're talking about. 'Cause I sure don't.
Just do that.
Yeah, right.
Just do that one romantic night.
I want to fuck to the
one
circus theme song. Yes. Yeah, that'd be great.
Not the theme song to Killer Clowns
do
from Outer
it,
Space
do
is
it
on my
dressed up
sex
as Pogo
playlist.
the Clown.
There you go.
I'm telling you, the theme song to Killer Clowns from Outer Space is on my sex playlist. too.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Put you in the mood.
All right, so-
Brian
Sorry,
Warner.
Johnny. Yes.
All right, NME. On their 2009 100 Greatest Heavy Metal Albums listed Antichrist Superstars number 92. All right, so let's get into these songs, these controversial, hateful songs that he wrote. Most of the lyrics, of course, were written by Manson himself, except for, I believe, Irresponsible Hate album. That was written by him and Twiggy. The album itself is in 3 parts. Cycle 1 being called the Hierophant, and that consists of the first track, Irresponsible Hate Anthem. Number 2, The Beautiful People. Number 3, Dried Up, Tied, and Dead to the World. And number 4, Tourniquet. 5 through 11 is Cycle 2, Inauguration of the Worm. And that consists of Little Horn, Crypt Orchid, Deformology, Worm Boy, Mr. Superstar, Angel with Scab Wings, and Kinderfield. Cycle 3 is a Disintegrator Rising, and that's 12 through 16. That's Antichrist Superstar 1996. Minute of Decay, The Reflecting God, which is my favorite song, and Man That You Fear. And there's also a hidden track, track 99. So I guess you could say there's 17 tracks on this album.
I miss hidden tracks on albums.
Right.
That was a trend for a long time.
It has different names. Some people call it Revelation 99, and some people call it Empty Sounds of Hate. So I'm sure everybody's already heard the album. So I mean, what's really left to say about this record?
Wait.
What?
Now, that is a fair assumption, but there are a lot of young ears,
Right.
that may unfortunately only be subjected to a small little genre niche of dark satanic music.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you're right
So
about
if you
that.
haven't, obviously everyone knows Manson's in the scene, but if you haven't given this full album, not one track, not two tracks, not just the beautiful
Right,
people,
don't just
and be
listen
done
to the
with it.
beautiful people, yes.
Listen to it from start to finish and appreciate like the flow. Like there was that people used to actually plan out the structure and progression of songs on albums.
Right.
Now albums have become collections of singles. It's fucking
Yeah,
sad.
that's true.
But please listen to this album from start to finish. You won't regret it.
Right, and by the man himself, Marilyn Manson, what he said about Antichrist Superstar, he said, Antichrist Superstar is about me growing up and wanting to become something that people would adore. Instead, I grew up and became something that people hated. Oh, you agree with that, huh?
Belial's right there with you.
Yes, he agrees with it. As far as Antichrist Superstar goes for me, I think this album communicates pain and passion. I think it combines hate and fear, and I think it combines all of those in an unholy sound and fury that only somebody like Marilyn Manson could deliver. Its concept, its production, its lyrics, his vocals, I think they're stellar. I think it combines all genres of rock, from Black Sabbath, I think to Queen, to even David Bowie, sprinkled in. It's got goth style from like Bauhaus, thrown in for some good measure. I mean, it still stands the test of time today,
Most certainly does.
and it's probably more relevant today, I think anyway, than it would be in 1996. So I mean, hail Satan, hail Marilyn Manson, and hail him for not bowing down and staying true to himself.
Hail
Right on.
Marilyn Manson.
Hail Marilyn Manson. Dennis, you
Yes.
are wigging out over there and having a good old time.
This is my all-time favorite song by this motherfucker. Every time it comes on, I go fucking crazy.
So I know Manson means a lot to you. If you're going to
Yes.
sum up the impact that is music, or you meeting him or going to his shows, like what is that had on you overall?
I don't know. It was. I got into Manson my late second grade, early third grade. I found my mom's copy of Manson. I guess it wasn't even that. No, I guess it was 96. I saw him in 98, which was 5th grade. So I guess it would have been 3rd grade that I found Manson. And I heard I put it on instantly, fell in love with it, and I don't know. It hit me close. And then with everything that went on in that time period into the early 2000s, and I was always fucking called weird for listening to him and all that. And then and I guess not then, but I don't know. Yeah, like you said, with me meeting him, I got the chance to meet him after. How long would that have been? 90. I guess I found him in 97, 97, 96, 97, and then I met him 2018 in August in Atlanta when they were doing that Twins of Evil tour. It was him and Rob Zombie.
Okay.
Got backstage passes to the show. My mom has a friend who was his tour manager at the time. So he hooked
I
us.
love stories
Yeah,
like
nice.
He
this.
hooked. So it was me and it's my mom's favorite artist at all. Also, like, it's just something that me and my mom share in common. And we both got backstage passes. So me and my mom went to go see fucking Manson and Rob Zombie in Atlanta in 202018. Fucking.
Oh, you showed me some of the backstage pictures.
Right?
you
Like,
have.
I was like 5 feet away from his fucking altar, and like I have. Did I show you the video? I've got the sound check of Rob
Yep.
Zombie of. Oh, dude, it was like my whole school fucking experience. I was reliving. It was so nostalgic. I felt like a kid again. Like,
So it was
Yeah.
cool.
this was my dream come true. Yeah, I got to go onto Manson's tour bus,
Nice.
hang out, talk with him, take a
that's-
picture with
that's
him.
awesome.
It was fucking awesome. Nicest motherfucker
yeah.
I have ever met. Down to earth, intelligent as fuck, as we all know. But
All right, and Veronica, I thought I heard you say earlier that you had bought the album, or you had liked a certain song on the album.
Yeah, not the album, but The Beautiful People. My favorite podcaster's favorite song of all time. I mean, still very popular one, probably the most. But I've just found that like people from all walks of life in my life like that song. One of my Christian coworkers, even now, it's her ringtone. It's been her ringtone for as long
Yeah.
as I've worked with her. So I just think like that's pretty cool. I'm still working my way through all of the albums. And I love his biography. Raised as a Seventh-day Adventist and then goes into school for music journalism and comes out with Marilyn Manson and the Spooky Kids, which was then cut down to just Marilyn Manson.
Right.
Just really interesting, yeah.
Yeah, he's a hell of a guy. He's doing a lot of media appearances now, too.
He's a movie star now.
Yeah.
And a TV star.
And
he was in Sons of Anarchy for a while.
The TV appearances that he's doing is completely like dressed down. If you don't know if you're not looking for him, you won't notice them. I saw a scene he did in, I'm not sure if it was like Law and Order or CSI or something, where he played a waiter. And I'm looking for the track Dennis wants me to play.
It's 15.
There it is. There it is.
We burn our door like cigarettes.
I think this is the best song on the album.
Yeah, this is between this and The Beautiful People. Tourniquet's up there too. I don't know. I think I've listened to Tourniquet.
Oh, come on, Irresponsible Hate Anthem? Are you fucking kidding me?
More than The Beautiful People. I mean, I was young when this album came out, so I latched on to the music, and Beautiful People was the awesome. Like I was telling Johnny, they used The Beautiful People for WWF Monday Night Raw theme song intro.
Right.
Yeah, it's hype music. It's that fucking drums. Like you're ready for battle.
See, like with me,
when
it
that
was
shit
like
breaks in.
With me, it was that song 1996. Like I was a very aggressive and angry child, and that it just helped me fucking release all that shit.
Yeah, Rage Against the Machine did that to me too. A lot of that shit. All right, well, as usual, stellar review, Johnny.
Thank you.
I like this one. This fucking album brings back a lot of memories.
Yeah, it does.
So thank you once again.
I don't know.
Hail Marilyn Manson.
Hail Marilyn Manson.
It was Mechanical Animals for me. I think that came out in '99.
Yeah, that was the one after.
Yeah. Just sitting there playing Sega Genesis, Earthworm Jim, and listening to Mechanical Animals.
I forgot to mention that in the review. It's actual a trilogy. It was Antichrist Superstar first, and then it was Mechanical Animals, and then it was Holywood.
Yeah.
So there you go. Even more stuff to listen to.
Hell yeah.
All right. Thanks for hanging out with us for the music review. We'll be right back.
Read the Devil's Dictionary.
Today's word is ritual. Definition of ritual as an adjective. Of or relating to rites or a ritual. Ceremonial. A ritual dance. According to a religious law. Ritual purity. Done in accordance with social custom or normal protocol. Ritual handshakes. Definition of ritual as a noun. The established form for a ceremony. The order of words prescribed for a religious ceremony. Ritual observance. A system of rites. A ceremonial act or action. An act or series of acts regularly repeated in a set precise manner. Ritual used in a sentence. According to GreyFaction.org, while mainstream media outlets learned to exercise slightly more discretion in reporting upon satanic ritual abuse claims after the 90s, mental health licensing oversight boards have done nothing to censure the practices of those credentialed professionals who continue to make conspiracy claims of a satanic cult conspiracy. Thanks for listening this week. Hail Grey Faction, hail thyselves, and Ave Satanas.
I fucking loved growing up in the 90s. The music, Manson, Nine Inch Nails, Rage Against the Machine. I mean, you name it. Lots of cool parts about growing up in the 90s for sure. But
I don't have
Ketchup.
much 90s reference. I was born in 96.
Missed out on Clear Pepsi, Purple Ketchup, the beginning of Pokemon.
I was there for green ketchup, though.
Well, the green ketchup came with the purple ketchup, same time.
I thought it was during Shrek. Okay, we'll figure it out.
I do not remember purple ketchup. Where did purple ketchup come from?
Heinz. They did purple and green ketchup. It was in a squeeze bottle.
Was it part of some promotion or something? Like Ghostbusters or something?
It was out for a good
It was a Barney
6 years.
It was a Barney promotion.
It must have been that fucking
That
friendly
fucking
purple dinosaur.
Another great part of the 90s.
Barney is a dinosaur from our imagination. Then I know dinosaur sensation. That's all I know. I don't know what goes in between. I'm sorry. So yeah, I guess that was.
I think what year that was. 91.
That was a perfect funnel of talking about some of the fucked up shit in the 90s. And
Exactly.
we're here for the Satanic Panic in the 1990s, and the biggest focal point when it comes to the Satanic Panic throughout the 1990s, when it comes to cases and impact, was the West Memphis Three. We've talked about this. We've mentioned the West Memphis Three in conversation and Patreon episodes right from the beginning, and it keeps coming up. And we figured we'd dedicate a good portion of this episode into diving in to the atrocities and the story. With us, obviously, we have Dennis and Veronica, and they are going to take us on a journey, give us a little backstory. If you're familiar with the cases or not, it's definitely, hopefully, going to provide you some insight. Dennis, Veronica, it's all you. Take it away.
Before we get started on this journey, you will hear us talk about something called Paradise Lost. That is a 3-part series that HBO put out. They were in the courtrooms during this investigation and trials and all that, and they filmed everything. So you can go on and you can watch all that. But I just wanted to let you know this is something we will be referring to, so you're not lost. So it all starts the night of May 5th, 1993.
On the night of a full moon.
Was it a full moon?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, case solved. Werewolves did it.
More likely than the West Memphis Three doing it.
Yeah. As much as it pains to laughter and, diving into something so serious,
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. It's way more likely.
3 boys, Christopher Byers, Steve Branch, and Michael Moore, were last seen about 6:30 playing at the edge of Robin Hood Hills. Now, Robin Hood Hills is just a section of woods that separates I-40 from this sub-community that these children lived in. About 8 o'clock, well, a little bit before 8 o'clock, Christopher Byers' father, John Mark Byers, called the police. My kid's missing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do the same fucking thing.
Yeah, enough time had passed. I'd say I'd do the same thing.
Right. Police show up, take his statement and all that, and they leave about 8:40. No more than 2 minutes later, they get another call. This black man had run into the Bojangles. That's about a mile down the road.
It's a restaurant?
Yes.
Bojangles?
Huge in the South. I mean, when I lived down in South Carolina, they were all over the place. Funny enough, I think it was at Bojangles. It was either Bojangles or Hardee's. Had a huge hepatitis A outbreak down right outside Greenville.
And it's probably from random people running in, leaving blood all over the walls and
Right?
nobody investigating it.
So, yeah, they get this call that this black man ran into Bojangles covered in blood and mud, and he ran into the women's room, but smeared blood all over the walls. And what's the point in doing that?
No, wait.
Very disoriented. He ran in extremely disoriented and upset.
So she pulls up to the drive-through, and the manager, explains everything to her. And this man had just left minutes before the cop had pulled up, so he had to be in the general vicinity. She had plenty of time to look around for him.
I think they said he left the restaurant going north towards the dumpsters, and he had left maybe a few minutes before she pulled up.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But she takes the statement, does not go into the restaurant to look at any of the crime. I wouldn't say crime scene, but just the scene that had happened.
The condition of the bathroom.
Exactly.
The blood.
Absolutely no backup is called. And unfortunately, it's a restaurant, so it was cleaned up pretty immediately and with very strong chemicals. I mean, it's a restaurant. You can't just leave blood and mud all over, a restroom.
Exactly. So, I mean, she actually leaves. She doesn't go in and investigate any of this. Takes a call about a couple kids that were egging a house. The parents round up some of the neighbors and all that, and they go into the woods themselves, and they're searching for these kids for hours out there. And they actually get pretty close, almost dead on to where the bodies were found. They got right there, but just, couldn't see. It was nighttime.
Right.
So the next day comes, the West Memphis Police Department comes in, and they bring the Chittenden County Search and Rescue Team. And they're shoulder to shoulder sweeping through this wood for hours in the morning. Mm-hmm. Nothing's turning up. They can't find anything. It was roughly noon. They decided to go search other places. There was a truck stop that was on the one side of the woods. They, some people went over there to see if anybody at the truck stop knew anything. If they went, because I think I-55 was on that side.
Okay.
So this one cop, Steve Jones, decided to stay behind, and he's searching around and he's looking, and there's it was a man-made rain like water runoff, and they called it the 10-mile bayou diversion ditch.
It was basically a drainage ditch, right?
Yes. Right. Yes. But it always had water in it, but a very muddy bottom to it. So he's like moving his way towards there, and he sees a black shoe floating in the water. Radios it in, and Sergeant Steve Allen comes running down, and he just immediately just dives into the fucking water.
And it's like quicksand. It's like, and so mud is...
I think it was up to like halfway up their shin, and he's like sucking his feet out and all that. And when he does, a body floats to the surface.
And that was Michael
Moore. They leave the body there, and he continues to search, and he sees like sticks that are poked out of the water, like very oddly,
like not in a natural position.
Exactly. He pulls one out, and there's a white shirt and pants wrapped around it, and it's kids' clothes. And he keeps searching. They end up finding all the clothes except for, I think it was 2 pair of underwear and
a sock.
Yes, but they find the other 2 bodies. They pull them all up, and they actually left the bodies out. Like they didn't call the...
Well, not yet. And when they did call the vehicle that was supposed to take them away, the woods at that time was actually so thick that they had to carry the bodies themselves out of the woods and put them into the vehicle.
They already had like maggots on them. And speaking about details on the bodies, they were tied. It was wrist to ankle, each side behind them. So the bodies are arched backwards, and they were tied up with their shoelaces. Both Michael Moore and Steve Branch were beaten in the head, with Steve Branch also having a bite mark like right above his eye.
Well, later during the trial, they tried to claim that was some satanic indication that it was done by Satanists.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
And then it also could have very well been done by an animal.
I mean, I've been
or a sex offender.
Yeah, or a sex offender. Exactly. Like it definitely wasn't Damien Eccles or any of the West Memphis Three. That's for sure.
Right. Going to Christopher Byers, his penis was filleted. It was skinned, and the top from where the circumcision is up was chopped off. His scrotum was completely cut off. Repeatedly stabbed all around his groin, and fucking horrible.
And of course, the first thing that anybody is going to come to the conclusion of, especially after the 1980s and everything we learned about in part 1, was Satanism, because of the extreme.
The Rivera documentary that you sent me, that actually for its time became the most widely watched documentary up until that point. The Geraldo Rivera documentary.
Yeah,
is that 2-hour one we watched?
Yeah.
Oh man, I couldn't stand that shit.
Yeah, it was rough to watch.
That was horrible.
Anton LaVey's daughter, I think, Zena.
Yes, it had her and
a lot of people on there.
It had the other spokesman of the church, but he made a branch. I think we talked about this before in another episode. He made a branch off of the Church of Satan, and it's like the Sons of Werewolves, or it's like the Temple of Werewolves, or something like that.
We definitely mentioned that before. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I can't remember the specific name. So these kids are found. All types of red flags are going off. What happens next?
Well, the next day, what would that be? May 7th. Damien Eccles is immediately brought in for questioning. Now, the reason being, the guy who found the shoe, Steve Jones, was Damien Eccles' parole officer.
And friends with another parole officer that was, local to the community, who had, frankly, kind of been infected with this kind of satanic panic, to the point where he had put together like his own little task force.
Would that be Officer James Sudbury?
That would be Jerry Driver.
Oh, Jerry Driver. Yeah. Okay.
So it's a little bit, kind of crazy to me that 2 days after this, suddenly this list is presented to everybody now involved in the case, and emotions are high. The town is kind of crushed. Like, how did this happen in a small, like, Christian town, basically, where everybody knows everybody and everybody's kids play together? And Jerry Driver took it upon himself to single out some people he didn't think belonged in this community for reasons we'll get into.
Right.
And this list was then handed to the primary investigator,
Gary Gitchell.
Yes.
So
gotta love Chief Investigator Gary Gitchell and that beautiful mustache of his.
So he looks just like Jim Leahy from Trailer
Yes,
Park
he
Boys.
does.
I'm mowing the air, Rand. Jim Leahy, John Dunsworth, rest in peace. He was the liquor. I love that guy. Anyways, but so he went right to Damien Eccles, and you said that that cop was the parole officer,
yes,
or whatever, counselor or whatever, assigned, whatever he was. Mm-hmm. So this Damien Eccles, he obviously had been in trouble because the cop that found the shoe that you were telling us about had a previous relationship with him, whether he was a parole officer, probation, or whatever. What kind of life did Damien lead, or what kind of kid was he?
Somebody that didn't fit in for a bunch of very silly reasons. Black hair, into metal, wore black. I've heard it described that he didn't wear much outside of black.
The reason he wore black was his girlfriend thought it looked sexy on him. So, I mean, if, he's in love with his girlfriend. Of course he's going to wear black. You think I look good in it? Fuck yeah, I'll wear it for you.
There were a few instances where he and that girlfriend had, I guess, tried to run away at some point.
Yes, there was one night they actually held up in an abandoned trailer in the same trailer park that Damien lived in, and were caught. They were caught in there. I think they were caught having sex, but...
You're fucking right on, Damien.
Fuck yeah, Damien. If that is correct, fuck yes, Damien.
Get it.
Teenage interactions that caused a stir with this girl's parents at the time. And Jerry Driver and the other parole officer didn't take very kindly to it. And at some point, there was some institutionalization that had happened.
Wasn't he given like a full disability status? I think it was by Dr. George W. Woods.
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And that's kind of the extent of what I know. It was a little bit, I think, well known that he was experimenting with Wicca. He had some, again, mostly to do with music and literature, to my knowledge, things they later found in his home, which we'll also get into, that they decide it was, pretty damning as evidence for somebody, a kid to be into. And the other two, Jason Baldwin, to my knowledge, ended up on the radar for being Damien Eccles' best friend.
Well, the reason they both got on the radar is because Damien and Jason were both had previously both been arrested for vandalism and shoplifting.
Okay.
So they already had police records. The police already knew who they were.
So they were associated criminally too.
Yes.
Yeah. What about Jesse?
Yes, petty criminals.
How did he pop up on the radar? I mean, I know they all hung out, but...
Yeah, he was associated with them. They weren't really friends.
I don't know exactly what they were hoping to get out of Jesse when they took him in initially. And I think, in my opinion, once they figured out that they could lead him as easily as they would end up leading him, they said, let's stick with it. And there's another kid, Aaron, who, Dennis is familiar with. It looks like, they ended up doing the same thing. It didn't really maybe start out as we're going to go after these people and get testimonies from these people just because they're tied in any, very stark way. It's after you figure out that they're giving you what they want and you can just roll with it instead of looking deeper into anything.
Right. How much time had passed from when they, picked up Damien and started questioning him until they rallied up everybody else?
They didn't pick up Damien that day, May 7th. They just took a visit to his house and they talked to him and Jason.
Oh, yeah. They got the ball rolling on
they got the ball rolling. Now, that same day, as you had mentioned, Veronica, just a second ago, this boy named Aaron. He's a classmate of the three boys that were killed.
Okay.
Now, he, on May 7th, went into the police department and said that he saw one of the children talking to a tall black man in a maroon car.
Could it have been the same black man from the Bojangles incident you mentioned earlier?
Could it have been?
I mean, I figure you're bringing this shit up for a reason, right?
Maybe.
So Aaron kind of, from that point, again, he's a young kid. He was classmates with the boys and was sort of led in this direction where the story just got more and more unbelievable. He said at one point he was there, he was in a tree, he was watching them be sexually assaulted and murdered, and he eventually escaped at one point. None of it added up. It kept changing, and it's a little kid who wants to get out of this interrogation room. But unfortunately, the prosecution used it successfurly.
And they were leading the fuck out of him the whole time,
and then came the Miss Kelly confessions.
During the Miss Kelly confessions, they coerced Mr. Miss Kelly. They used his lack of intelligence. He had an IQ of 72, and they basically started with, all right, well, when were you guys in the woods? I think he said noon.
Mm-hmm. He said morning, noon, not even the right time of day.
Right, and of course the cops knew that the little boys were in school at that point. So he's like, "Are you sure about that? It wasn't after school." He goes, "Oh, maybe it was 3 or 4." And okay, well, And he's like kept coercing him more and more. I kept changing to 6 or 7. Then it was 8 or 9, and you know, then they kind of started rounding around that time and really pushing for that. And they were using, you know, like they would yell at him if he said the wrong answer. So he would then back up and he would start the entire thing over and say sentence for sentence what they're saying. He was literally repeating back what they were saying.
The same tactics used in the McMartin trials with all of those children.
Yes.
The same tactics.
You find a reoccurring pattern here.
Yeah, you think? Yeah.
Now,
makes me sick to my stomach, and this shit still happens today.
Now you can say the same thing with Aaron. You know, this little boy. They were, you know, from May to June, they were interviewing this boy, and they were coercing him as well, and they were pushing him. I mean, his story went wild. It went from a black man in a maroon car to
I was there and I saw it, and then I wasn't, and then I was there again, and then I escaped.
Yeah. He was tackled by Jesse Miskelly and tied up, and then Jesse Miskelly put a knife in his hand, and he was supposed to stab one of the boys, and it was ridiculous.
And then he hopped on a broomstick and flew to Bojangles and had a cheeseburger. Fuck.
Why are we laughing during this? Please stop.
I'm sorry. And again, this is more or less, I can answer that question easily.
Right.
And that's just to stress the ridiculousness of all the theatrics that were a part of this case.
So after the Miss Kelly confessions, at that point, I do think the cops did go back to the restaurant to, they couldn't
They
even...
went back the day after. They went back on the 7th
But
to
they
do a
couldn't,
blood sample.
yeah, and they couldn't even get much. They did get a scraping, which was then lost in evidence, and the police did testify during that trial.
Yeah, we'll
they
get
said
to
yes.
that. We'll get to that.
Mr. Leahy.
They got blood in hair. They got blood in hair. You know, once Jesse confessed, they rounded Damien and Jason right up, and boom, they were in jail.
So that happens on June 3rd, just about a month after it all started to happen, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So after the arrest, you know, Jesse, of course, withdraws. He's wondering why he's in jail. Like, what the fuck's going on? Like, I didn't do any murders. Like, what are you talking about?
He thought his lawyer was a police officer. He didn't understand at first that his lawyer was working for him.
Wow, I didn't know about that.
Representing his defense. He didn't understand that.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, that's crazy.
It adds a
I didn't
whole
know
nother
anything
element
about.
to-
Yeah, that's ridiculous. From the arrest down to September, the defense was not getting any of the information that they were supposed to be getting. None of the paperwork. Like, it was very slowly trickling down to them. Like, they didn't get Aaron's confessions until September. You know, they got that going on. They go into the preliminary hearings. Right there, they say Jesse's going to be tried separately.
That was because of the confessions?
Because he withdrew his confession.
Okay. But the other
And he
boys
refused to, I think, formally testify against
Okay.
Jason.
I was curious about why he was officially separated from the two.
It confused me too, but yeah, I think it
they
boils
had a
down to
confession on
that.
him. The other two, they didn't have.
Yeah, there was nothing.
So after, you know, they get this confession out of Jesse, of course they're going to go right away and pick up Damien and Jason, right? Boom, arrested. Everyone's thrown in jail. They've got their murderers.
Yep. And the town is pretty much behind them too this entire time.
Behind
People
them.
are looking for blood, and I mean, if you've seen the documentaries, if you've read anything, it's crazy.
I mean, they were yelling his name before they arrested the guy. You know, after the arrest, of course, you know, Jesse's going to withdraw his confession. So, you know, like from June to September, like, they were not, like, the defense was not getting any of their information. Like, it was very slowly trickling down to them. Like, they didn't get the Aaron confessions until like September. But, you know, after the preliminary hearings, it goes into the first trial. Or I should say, during the preliminary hearings, I think I forgot to mention that Jesse was brought up that he was going to try separately than Damien and Jason because of his withdrawal. And they tried to coerce him into testifying against Damien and Jason, but he said no. So, like, boom, separate
I
trial.
always wondered about that, and I knew there had to be a reason for that. It just made no sense to me.
Right. So the first trial was Jesse's trial. You know, it was nothing but them just going back and forth between his confessions. You know, the prosecution and the defense. You know, with the misinterpretations or the inconsistencies with his testimony. None of his times are right. How he killed the children wasn't right. Where he killed the children wasn't right. Like, until he was taught where everything was, how it was done. Like, so, you know, it was a bunch of that. They actually brought in one of the police and he testified that they lost the blood and
that they got
hair.
from the restaurant. Yep.
Yes, the Bojangles blood they lost, and it was never even sent out for analysis.
Big surprise. They didn't care what that blood told them.
Right.
And it's at that point, I mean, you got to kind of, where I will speak a little bit on the defense of that police officer, you know, they don't know that 3 kids are dead yet when they go to that restaurant and take the report through the drive-through window.
Yeah.
And then the blood is cleaned up. The perpetrator, you know, the guy is not pursued. And they still don't know at that point that 3 kids are dead. So I don't know if that officer is necessarily making the connection in her mind.
Back to the first trial, Jesse Kelly. He was ended up handed a verdict of first-degree murder, 1 first-degree murder and 2 second-degree murders. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole, and then another 40 years on top of that, just for good measure. All right. Anyway, so let's go to the second trial. It was a trial of Damien and Jason.
Mm-hmm.
So wait, but before I don't want to interrupt, but how fucked up is this? Like going into this being Damien and Jason.
I can't.
Your friend
imagine.
just you already know the outcome, no matter how much money is spent and how many points you want to prove. The person that they're saying you did this with just got convicted.
Right.
Like he's going to jail for life.
Right.
What kind of fucking
2 boys
hope?
are sitting in the courtroom going, what did he say to them?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Jason, of course, is sitting there like, wait, I'm just somebody's friend and that's why I'm here? You know, it's just a terrible...
You watch the Paradise Lost and you can see Damien like when they bring him in and out and like, you know, how he holds himself. Like he holds himself really well, but I mean, you can see how he's feeling in it. I can't imagine how I would feel in that situation.
And
like
their parents, surprisingly, are very on their, not surprisingly, but are very on their side, which is a kind of good thing to see in the documentary. Just because imagine, I guess, if you had a parent in that situation that was convinced that you are a devil worshiper and you are sacrificing
that would change
kids.
the game completely.
Back to the case, like you know, it was just the prosecution coming down on top of him with this whole like he wears black, he listens to metal, he has this tattoo, this and that, you know, real just bullshit, just profiling the kid.
And and I think that's where we kind of go into what we talked about earlier, and that was, you know, putting emphasis on how exactly they proved satanic motive where there clearly was none, or none that was provable in any way.
Right. They brought that expert in, right?
Yes, Dr. Dale Griffiths, who we are going to talk about now.
Where did he get his PhD?
He got his PhD at Columbia Pacific University.
And where can you find Columbia Pacific University?
In pamphlets.
Oh, look at that.
You don't have to go to classes or have teachers necessarily.
And yet somehow this douche ends up as a prosecution expert on the occult.
So Dr. Dale, they did refer to him as a doctor for the entirety of the trial. He started out in law enforcement and claimed during the cross-examination that he kind of during the course of his law enforcement career developed an interest in non-traditional groups, and he said that this stemmed from the 60s riots. He doesn't really elaborate on that too much. The picture I'm getting in my head is Manson-type cults, and this guy may be...
Probably what I'm thinking, or maybe the Church of Satan. Or...
Yeah, that's true. That's exactly true. That did come out that year. In his minor defense, I can see a total point in law enforcement for departments that specialize in cults and brainwashing and abuse, but not necessarily in Satanism, which... his interest then, it built in satanic cult activity specifically. And he went on to form kind of a consultation career after he retired from being an officer.
Boo.
He made it so that he had lectures everywhere he wanted to go. He testified during the trial that he gave lectures to criminal justice resources, educators, mental health professionals, and when asked about his current consulting work, said that he answered an average of 65 calls a week, asking about the occult. And he did then later say that 80% of them were related to Satanism specifically. Later, again, during that cross-examination, he states, well, priests and ministers call me. So my question is, how many of those calls related to Satanism are priests and ministers?
How many of those calls did he get to see with an exorcism?
Yeah, seriously.
Seriously.
And how many of the checks he was cashing? were
How many
issued by
times was-
churches.
How much money did you make? And Damien and Baldwin's defense completely covered that. They said, you've carved out quite a little cozy niche for yourself where there are none. And especially after that documentary that aired in 1988, it doesn't surprise me you're getting 65 calls a week and being called to very high profile cases like this one. And how it turned out to be.
Outside of his bullshit expertise, like what else did this expert on the occult refer to as far as material that, like, of reference to try to prove these points?
So he says, in cases like this, he typically will identify a Satanist with black hair, black T-shirts, an interest in metal music, tattoos, definitely. And he was called to kind of give his opinion on this key piece of evidence that was found in Damien's house. This piece of evidence was a book called Never on a Broomstick, written by Frank Donovan, published in 1971. They didn't go too much in depth into this book in the documentaries, from what I remember, and it has been out of print for a very long time. I tracked it down and I read it because, frankly, when I was first learning about this case, it for some reason interested me a lot more than, known reading that was already out about the case. I watched the documentaries and I thought, there must be something really damning in this book for them to have successfully proved Satanism as a motive for these murders.
So she put on her Veronica the Valedictorian hat and went to work.
Yes, she did. And thank you for sending us that PDF. I can't wait to read it.
Oh, it's no problem. And it is not leisurely reading. It is a school book. And I'll tell you exactly why. It is not a manual on how to be a Satanist. It is not a manual on how to perform disgusting satanic ritual murders. It's a book that lists in chronological kind of order the evolution of Wicca, witchcraft, occultism, and Satanism. One of the chapters specifically outlines like the evolution of the imagery of Satanism, which is what Dale Griffiths used as key evidence content in this book. He tried to claim, oh, well, this chapter was underlined and annotated. I read the chapter, Rise of the Devil. It covers everything, mainly medieval cases, but the case of Joan of Arc, Gilderay, the Knights Templars, who a lot of them were executed for being accused of worshiping Satan after they came back from their crusades. It goes in, it's the poisonings in the court of Louis XIV and how they thought the poisoners were connected to like satanic cults in France at the time.
Right.
Goes into, rumors and kind of legends about the royal Plantagenets and Henry VIII. It covers so much about the evolution of the story and imagery of Satan, where a lot of the influence comes from gods like Pluto, Loki, Set, Shiva, how the story gets a little bit like more twisted and how he's able to become this kind of all powerful, let's blame every terrible thing that goes on in the world on him, and how ultimately the church and the state, different churches in different states, were able to use Satanism as a scapegoat to appropriate property from both wealthy classes and peasants alike. And it's just a complete list of these cases, a lot of them which, I was already very familiar with. And after all those, after all these cases that are outlined in that chapter, the only kind of satanic related thing I could find, I guess, that they could say Damien used at whatever point was this little oath of allegiance to the devil by a priest named Urbain Grandier, who lived a long time ago and is long dead. It was written backwards in Latin, not in the book, not in Never on a Broomstick, but that's the only thing I can find. All these other annotations that Dale Griffiths brings up, Damien claimed that they were not annotated by him. There's no way to prove that they were. And there's nothing damning that I found in this book. Dale Griffiths even, said that it looked like a majority of the book had not been read. I read the entire book. It's an anti-Inquisition book,
right?
Essentially.
Okay.
And it's kind of it's absurdist comedy that the state of Arkansas was able to use an anti-Inquisition book to successfully convict 3 innocent teenagers during a 1994 Inquisition. There is one little fallacious part of the book, and it's in the prologue. It kind of reads like if you've read Roald Dahl's The Witches, there's this very superstitious Norwegian grandmother character who's listing off all the ways to spot a witch to her little grandson. And it's very joking. It's very, Roald Dahl wrote Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, yeah.
It's for kids. And that prologue reads like that. You know, the author's just kind of trying to tease you, be a little fallacious, like, oh, your modern witch is in the grocery store next to you. It might be your neighbor. In the last chapter, it's called The Resurrection of the Craft, and it just states in so many ways that witchcraft is misunderstood and not inherently evil. The book is not in any way trying to get you or anyone to single anybody else out as a Satanist or as an occultist. And it just kind of, you know, after finishing that, it was not what I expected. I mean, begs the question, did Dale Griffiths read this book? The expert on occultism, did he read this book?
I highly doubt it.
Did the jury read this book? The judge didn't read this book.
Or something referenced so heavily and like used as such, you know, groundbreaking.
Exactly. And on the, you know, the part of the defense, their defenses went down the list of spells briefly outlined in the book. And he says, you know, Dr. Griffiths, there's a love spell listed, there's a memory spell, there's a spell for success, a cure for worms, a cure for cramps. Does any of this have anything to do with the crime scene? And Dale Griffiths says no. And then, you know, at the very end, he's asked Dale Griffiths, is there the possibility that this crime, with its lack of satanic ritual imagery, with its display fashion, is this possible that this is a sex crime and not necessarily a crime that's, you know, the basis for Dale Griffiths kept calling it the trappings.
Driven by the devil. Yeah.
Exactly. And Dale Griffiths says yes to that question. It is possible. It's a sex crime.
And that's the thing. Like, and I know we're going to say this again when referencing this case this is one case. How many other Dale Griffiths are there out there?
100%. How many lectures has he given to officers, doctors, teachers?
Pseudoscience fucking kills.
How many Jason Baldwins are there out there? How many Damon Eccles are there out there? Like,
pseudoscience kills. It cost, and we're going to get into the final sentencing, but 18 years off of 3 kids' lives.
These kids had the cameras in the courtroom because of HBO's Paradise Lost. And one thing I know Damien talks about, and you know, one of the first things my mind goes to is the thousands of other cases that didn't make the media.
Right.
That maybe were a little bit more low key, weren't as graphic, weren't as disturbing, but still nonetheless
still sitting in jail.
Got thrown under this bullshit umbrella of satanic occult bullshit and all the families that, you know, have all these murders and things, legitimate crimes that are still unanswered. Because they put all the money in the satanic egg basket.
Completely. This was just a book that Damien picked up at a library used book sale at a school. Just because he had it in his possession, people ran this far with the hysteria, and nothing stopped them, clearly.
That could have happened to me. I could have easily been thrown in jail if I was involved in it or close to something that happened because of the Satanic Bible that I had and the Anarchist Cookbook that I had. Just those two alone.
100%.
Like, could have been
one book I never had.
Anarchist Cookbook?
Yeah.
I loved it. When I got I had a printed dot matrix printed copy of it for years, but when I got the physical copy of it, it was, I don't know.
And so in conclusion, Damien was later quoted during a Dateline interview. I believe he was still on death row at that point, but basically saying that Dale Griffiths was the fuel they threw on the fire. And that's completely true. That's exactly what the prosecution did. And just in summary, the judge asked that this testimony from him and this cross-examination go directly to motive. And that's how they proved this motive.
Wow.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. But in return to that, the defense did bring in somebody who was he was an expert on police handling of occult-related crimes, and he refuted the prosecution's so-called expert testimony. And part of the reason that the prosecution even brought in this expert on the occult, I'm doing huge quotes here, is because in the beginning, Jason's lawyer was fighting for them not to be able to use the word like cult activity in the courtroom unless it was related to like physical evidence, because he didn't want like that name or that paint that image painted on Jason. When Damien's lawyer wanted it in the courtroom, he wanted that just to show like how fucking ridiculous this whole thing is, how absurd it is,
to prove reasonable doubt, which they did 100 times over.
Right, exactly. Ended up being the judge actually ruled it so if it wasn't directly related to cult activity, they couldn't say the word, and that's why they brought this expert in and all this bullshit. On top of that, they actually brought Damien onto the stand, and they drilled him about his hobbies, his religious beliefs, his taste in music, his books, like we were all saying. Why
he had a Shakespeare quote in one of his journals.
Right. Well, what they really loved to get down on him was how much he loved Aleister Crowley. But so there was all kinds of really weird things going on in the courtroom. But yeah, no, they ended up coming to the conclusion that these two boys were guilty of these murders. And Jason Baldwin ended up getting life in prison without parole. And Damien Eccles was to be killed by lethal injection on May 5th, 1995. 2 years exact to the date of when the boys went missing and were killed.
After the sentencing, there was just a progression of... there was actually some media outlets that did cover this initially, saying, this is what they used to prove motive. Isn't that a little weird? They then went on to use all of the footage to construct the documentaries, and appeal after appeal after appeal was filed and turned down by Judge Burnett. And then eventually one was also turned down by the Supreme Court, I think in terms specifically of Damien's death row status.
And once it gets to the Supreme Court, like that's it. Unless there's some other weird shit that eventually does happen. But.
Well, from these documentaries spawned groups that took it upon themselves to hire their own private investigators and collect more of their own evidence. And they did build it eventually big enough to a point where it got national attention.
And that was highlighted in Paradise Lost 2, right?
Right.
What was that group called again? Was it Free the West Memphis Three?
Yes.
Okay.
It was also the name of an album that was put out to benefit their legal defense team as well.
Right.
Unfortunately, that album has Eddie Vedder on it. Fuck Pearl Jam.
Eddie Vedder, Johnny Depp, the Dixie Chicks, and a couple others really did bring this into the light. And eventually, they were not exonerated, but they got their freedom.
They were given an Alford plea. It's basically where they admit to guilt to gain their freedom. So it's kind of like they're admitting to being guilty but maintaining their innocence. And really, I mean, Jason did not want to do this at all. He wanted to fight. But you got to think Damien was coming down to the last of his days before being lethally injected. This was his last chance. Like if he took it to regular trials, they could have pushed it for years, and he would have died in jail because he was already getting really sick. The food in jails are not good. The condition in jails are not good. So his physical health was really dropping. So Jason bit the bullet, and he's this is my friend. We got to do this. And it
was a strange day. They finally had freedom, and everybody was in a way happy for them. And it was nice to kind of see the opposite of what was going on when they first went into the trial, the witch hunt mob outside, just alone saying that they wanted these terrible things to happen to them, versus the crowd that were outside that day that they took the Alford plea, kind of cheering them on.
These Alford pleas, they came about because of what, like new DNA or new evidence?
Yes, there was new DNA brought to the court in 2009, I think it was.
2010, yeah.
Okay, and it was it was directly pointed away from Damien and all of them, so they were going to use that against the court, and
that's what eventually tore all the walls down.
Yes, okay. They were like, it was basically Arkansas saying, all right, you know what, you've caught us, we're not going to let you sue us. So yes, that was August 19th, 2011. So they finally got their freedom after 18 years of wrongfully sitting in jail. So we got to give it to them. We're so sorry that this happened to you.
Hail the West Memphis Three.
Yes, hail the West Memphis Three.
Hail the West Memphis Three.
we cannot say sorry enough. But we are so glad to see that you are free. I love watching Damien's videos on YouTube. I highly suggest you all kind of dive in and do your own research on this topic. There was a lot that I did not bring to light. There was a lot that I did not cover. I really wanted to, but I kind of held back. I thought you guys would have more fun learning on your own.
We could learn from just in terms of every kind of hysteria that's rampant through the world right now, whether it's, Satanism. This didn't end. This progressed through the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
How I found out about this case in the first place was because I overheard some college friends, I think, talking about how Manson was blamed for Columbine in 1999.
Yes, he was.
It certainly was.
And then from that conversation sparked this one. And it really pushed me to learn more about this. In that book, in Never on a Broomstick, which I mentioned earlier, there's a huge section of the book dedicated to Salem alone. And it's just crazy that things like Salem, we think we're so advanced and whatever else, but this is still going on.
Mm-hmm. And that is, I think, a perfect way to end our coverage on the West Memphis Three. The fact that it's still going on is going to lead us right into Satanic Panic Part 3. Great faction, all that good stuff.
It's gonna be a lot of fun doing that one.
And with that being said as well, Satanic Panic's still going on. That's when we're going to dive into QAnon as well. So I know Veronica the Valedictorian has to get going. She has pressing business. Thank you both for the time and effort you put into this topic.
No problem.
I know it was a lot of work, and I hope someday soon that those families can finally be put at peace in regards to accountability.
I do too.
It may not come from a judicial standpoint, but from a private investigator, hail their families.
Hail their families.
Hail the West Memphis Three.
Hail everyone who's maybe, still doing jail time for something they didn't do.
Hail all of them, and hail Damien for putting himself on a platform to bring light to that very topic. He was lucky enough to have the cameras in this courtroom.
Yes, he was.
Thousands were not. Thank you both. Hail Satan.
Hail Satan.
All right, heathens, degenerates, lend me your ears for just a little longer so we can tell you and remind you how to find us on all of the various social media platforms.
Every single one.
Facebook, the Zuck Machine. You can find us on Facebook by looking up Satanic Study Hall. Be careful what you share in our secondary Facebook location, which we like to call the Goat Farm. And if you want to find it, it is Satanic Study Hall presents the Goat Farm. Now, that is a place where you can interact with members of the cast, other listeners, and have a good old time doing it. Be careful, speaking of getting zucked with the memes that you share in there. Gotta be careful, we walk a fine line. But the Goat Farm is awesome. Our Facebook page is awesome. Generally on Facebook, you're going to get audio clips, some behind-the-scenes stuff, and all the latest news. Moving on to another Zuck platform, and that is the Gram. You can find us on Instagram at Satanic Study Hall, just like Facebook. Now on Instagram, we try to take a different approach to most social media. So Insta, what do we do, Dennis? It's like more behind-the-scenes stuff.
Yes.
We are highly following Belial the Baphomet's journeys all over Philadelphia. And
we all love Belial.
What will be the Keystone State. I'm sure he will expand in his travels.
He will. Actually, he has expanded. Well, he has expanded, but the Baphomet family has expanded. We now have one in, across the pond in England named Wool I.M.
Excellent. So the Baphonets are breeding. I like that.
Yes.
They gotta keep it up. Let's get this family rolling. How do they find us on Twitter, Dennis?
You find us at Satanic SH, capital S in Satanic, and then a capital S and a capital H at the end. And that's where you will find me 95% of my day. So you can always shout out and say, hey.
So Twitter is fantastic. I'm even learning a little bit on the Twitter machine. Something I hold near and dear to my heart is the next social media platform, and it's a little bit of the VIP club, and that's Patreon. You've heard us mention it a bunch of times. We have been having a shit ton of fun recording bonus content. Patreon is great, and the people that support us on there are even better.
Tonight's episode was a lot of fun.
You can find us on patreon.com/Satanic Study Hall. Now, we will be moving forward with shouting out our new patrons as well as our VIPs. So we're going to do that real quick and say thank you. So we have Little Chick.
Little chicky, little chicky, little chicky, little chicky, little chicky, can't be wrong.
I don't know what that was, but welcome, little chick. You all right, Dennis?
I'm fine.
Okay. I think Belial,
hi, Belial.
Belial's worried about you too.
Oh, shit. He's going to give me a spanking when we get home. Yes, he lives with me.
A little chick, welcome to the club. Great to have you. We also have Grant. Oh, little chick, by the way, jumped on 666. And as always, we have 333, 666, and the beefy $20 a month tier. Grant, thanks for joining us. Grant joined us just a few days ago.
Welcome, Grant. Thank you.
It's good to have you here. I hope you enjoy what you found, and we're gonna keep you laughing. At least we hope so. And Grant, hop on Patreon and check out some of the new bonus content. There are probably going to be one or two more by the time this hits the airway. So I hope you enjoy. And thanks again for your support. And then I'm just going to say the last three again. I forget. We've recorded so much and gone back and forth with some of our readjustments and topics that I'm just going to say them again. So we have Sam. Sam joined us at the 333 Founders Club level.
Hello, Sam.
Early September.
I love the conversations we've had so far.
Sam, you are fantastic. Keep the engagement going. We appreciate it. Brandon's also at the 333 Founders Club. Brandon joined slightly before Sam did. So welcome to Patreon. And keep reaching out to other members. I think I've seen you interacting with a couple different people on the goat farm. So keep that up. This is a journey for all of us. All right, and moving on from Brandon, we have Shayna. Shayna joined us on September 1st.
What's
she hit
up,
us up,
Shayna?
started the month off right with some contributions toward our awesome fucking podcast.
Hell yeah.
I know that sounds a little cocky, and it definitely, I walk a fine line, but no, there Dennis goes again. But thank you, Shayna, for your support. We appreciate you being here, and have fun. Please have fun.
Always have fun.
And y'all, anybody, patrons or just listeners, tell us if you have ideas about content. We didn't mention our email address in this social media fiasco we're talking about here.
Email address.
SatanicStudyHall@gmail.com.
Oh, that email address.
The easiest way. And you can also slide into Dennis's DMs as well. He's always ready to have a back and forth with you. All right, so that wraps up social media, and to be honest with you, D-Gens, it wraps up our show. It's been a long journey through the 90s.
Have a great night, guys.
We're not quite there. Dennis is really ready to wrap it up. You hear him? Yeah, he's ready to. Head needs to hit the pillow, but nonetheless,
no, it's not what I need to hit.
There was a lot of stuff we didn't cover, obviously,
Yes.
and one of the things that we wanted to drive home here as we cover this stuff is we covered cases that got media attention. Thousands of other people in cases that have continued from, when this all began and the spark started going in the early 80s into present day. So to the West Memphis Three, hail thyselves.
Hail.
What an amazing journey you have had so far. And I hope y'all continue to impact people and tell your story. We're going to move on with examples on how people are continuing to tell their story through the works of Grave Action as we dive into Satanic Panic Part 3.
Yes.
And we'll also be diving into QAnon when we do that as well. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for being here. Big shout out to our friends over at Love City Satanists. Also,
thank you very much, guys.
Big shout out to Satanic Temple New York City, who are
huge,
always making us smile.
You guys are awesome
on social media and have been very, very helpful. And a giant Ave Satanas to you, the listeners. Thank you for being here. It is always a pleasure to spend a couple hours with you in class. Hail thyselves.
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan. And have an awesome week. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Let's